On San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel recently blew off the roof by announcing that Iron Man actor Robert Downey Jr. is returning for Avengers Doomsday, not as the Iron Man but as the movie canon's villain Victor Von Doom, aka Doctor Doom. While the real Victor Von Doom seemingly won't exist in MCU continuity, but what stories could Marvel be adapting with its new Doctor Doom? In Marvel Comics there have been multiple times when Tony Stark has become Doctor Doom, so we are going to explore everything multiple times. So guys, here are the major stories where Tony Stark became Doctor Doom, which shows just how far back this seemingly out of thin air idea actually goes. The first time Tony Stark becomes Doctor Doom was in 2003's Exiles comic series. In comic Iron Man of Exiles issue 23, readers meet an alternate version of Tony Stark with no empathy at all. He was still a genius, but he has some psychopathic problems within him, so when a war breaks out between Mutantkind and humanity, he masterfully plays both sides. Due to his psychopathic nature, he uses Victor Von Doom, aka Doctor Doom, the leader of Latveria, to arrange an attack on New York City. Tony uses Doom's attack to justify his ascension to planetary rule, and after his work is done he betrays and kills Doom as part of his plan. While Tony is successful in killing Doctor Doom, but Doom is not an easy task to take on, and before going to hell he manages to grievously injure Tony, and in the end Doctor Doom leaves Tony just like him to never again remove his mask in public. After this incident, Tony also claims Doctor Doom's iconic green cloak, but he doesn't like calling himself Doctor Doom, so instead he chooses the nickname Iron Monarch, which complete his rise from supposed hero to unquestioned conqueror. But due to the feel like Doctor Doom, the world was feeling the pressure, so to setting the world free, Invisible Woman assassinates him, but she also died during the assassination. While the Iron Monarch storyline was the first time when Tony Stark put Doctor Doom costume, but the next storyline is named by Rob Liefeld as Tony Stark's official first Doctor Doom transformation. In Marvel Team Up issue 2 we see a world where the Skrull supervillain Titanus has kidnapped the Avengers to the planet Trillion, and during this kidnapping he has slaughtered many of them. Under such harsh conditions given by Skrulls, Tony's moral compass eventually broke, and he became a far more extremist figure called Iron Maniac. Due to this change, Tony started believing that Reed Richards is a major threat to the humanity, so he started battling Reed Richards. After that he eventually traveled from his home dimension to the mainstream Earth 616, where he fought a variety of heroes while also warning them of the coming of Titanus. Initially the Iron Maniac's armor was very similar to Doctor Doom's. It was so similar that when he arrives in the mainstream, Reed mistakes him for Doom. However, he doesn't claim that identity and still sees himself as Iron Man. Once the case of mistaken identity was resolved, Iron Maniac switched to a purple and grey Iron Man suit, which he created out of a robotic life model decoy of the supervillain Diamondback, but later he was eventually defeated using a fragment of Cosmic Cube. Also, like Doctor Doom, the Iron Maniac has severe burns on his face, which eventually came from a battle between him and Human Torch, in which he killed Johnny Storm's Human Torch. So guys, now we have a storyline where Tony fully and definitively becomes Doctor Doom. In 2010's What If Iron Man Demon in an Armor issue 1, Marvel fans get to see an alternate version of the story where original Victor Von Doom forced Tony into a mind swap, stealing his life of privilege. However, Tony's genius level allows him to rise in Latverian society, becoming the country's ruler and turning it into a major power in the world. When Doom decides to stamp out Tony's success, the two egos clash, wearing alternate versions of their armor. Tony have developed a gold and red Doctor Doom costume and Doom wearing a silver and grey Iron Man armor. In the end, Tony wins out this battle, but because Doom has utterly destroyed his reputation, he refuses to switch back to his original self. So now he is officially taking the name Victor Von Doom, aka Doctor Doom, as a force for good. So guys, after hearing stories where Iron Man takes Doctor Doom mantle, or sometimes it's costume or sometimes just a mistake, we are coming to the most important story, which is also suggested by movie makers as a reference. In a recent post on Twitter, Marvel writer Dennis Camp promised that to understand Robert Downey Jr. as Doom we must read Comic Ultimates 4. This upcoming comic is set in the alternate Ultimate Universe where Marvel history has been mangled and warped by a villain known as the Maker. It's incredibly unlikely that Camp's claim should be taken literally, as the Ultimate Universe already has its own Doctor Doom, with Ultimates issue 4 teased as his origin story. In this world, Doctor Doom is a heroic but deeply traumatized version of Reed Richards, who was captured by the Maker, the villain of this universe, who forced to help him mutilate the timeline. Doom has recently joined the Ultimates alongside this universe's teenage Tony Stark, who hopes to defeat the regime that the Maker was able to create by changing the timeline. While here it is Reed Richards as Doctor Doom instead of Tony Stark, but it's possible that this is actually the narrative the MCU will use. In this world, Reed was captured by an unbeatable time-traveling villain, who tortured him because his destiny as a superhero got destroyed, and also the family of Fantastic Four got killed by his captor. Swapping Reed Richards for Tony Stark, Maker for Kang the Conqueror, and we can see how it's easy to the movies, so they could use this blueprint to introduce a Tony variant, who was twisted and broken by terrible experiences which turned him into a multiverse-spanning villain. This seems like the best bet for an MCU adaptation, but there's also the possibility of a curveball. So guys, while the Ultimate storyline is the nearest story which can get adapted, but it can be also a Marvel trick to gain attention towards a variant. So we will look more and more until we find the Doctor Doom. So guys, while there are many stories where Tony Stark becomes Doctor Doom, the more famous story is Doctor Doom becoming Iron Man. This happened most famously in infamous Iron Man, a story spinning out of Civil War II. In this story we saw a semi-redeemed Doctor Doom who replaces Tony Stark after his death, wearing a green and grey Iron Man suit with his iconic cloak, but now in black color. In this storyline, Marvel used Doom's time as a hero to show that even when he's trying to do good, his characteristic arrogance still dictates his actions, so he spent most of his time butting heads with other heroes before eventually returning to villainy. Less famous 2007's Marvel Adventures Fantastic Four issue 25 also debuted a heroic Doctor Doom in Doc Iron. A straightforwardly heroic character, Doc Iron fights an evil Reed Richards codenamed as Mr. Devious. This Doom isn't Tony Stark, but he does wear an armor, which is quite similar to the large gunmetal grey Iron Man Mark I. So guys, while these are the most probable Doctor Doom Iron Man variants, there is one who is above all of them. While this Doctor Doom variant has nothing to do with Tony Stark, but he is worth discussing given the direction the MCU is taking with its multiverse. The Doom above all, aka Doom Supreme, is a version of Doctor Doom, who has beat his world's heroes and transcended his home reality, becoming a supreme force of multiversal evil. This version of Doctor Doom has defeated countless other variants and came as close as any villain who before him tried to conquering the entire multiverse. While this Doom is relatively new, but the idea of one Doom being the biggest and baddest version in the multiverse is also very likely to appear in the MCU. MCU has set up the idea of an infinite war between Kang variants in Loki, and now Marvel has switched to Doctor Doom as its supreme villain, so they will likely necessitate a version of the character who likewise operates on the multiversal level rather than being just another supervillain. So it's highly likely that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom will be a Doom Supreme in nature, even if not by its name. So ultimately we can't know which comic story the MCU will adapt. However, it certainly seems that the examples set by Ultimates and Iron Maniac are more likely, at least in the broad strokes. The other stories on this list hinge on a pre-existing Victor Von Doom, an element that is needlessly complicated for the movies to introduce. So the idea of Tony Stark being corrupted by another villain seems most likely, especially because the MCU's prior focus on Kang could set him up as the perfect evil doer who turned Iron Man into a monster. Avengers Doomsday isn't releasing until 2026, so there's a lot of time for the movies to lay the groundwork for a Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom. However, if they follow the comics, then it's most likely a variant of Tony Stark, who is beaten and corrupted by a major villain, who prevents him from becoming the heroic Iron Man and instead transform him into the villainous Doctor Doom. So guys, that's it for today. What are your thoughts on which storyline MCU will take? Please tell me in comments. And if you feel this video gives you content, please like and share this video. And before going, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys. We will see you soon.